So we have in round number 3.
Podcast canceled.
Taking a look at Michael Bonde versus Alex Mitas. So this is that matchup, Mono Green Aggro versus Teamer Reclamation.
Yeah, it looks like the Mono Green deck's going to have a pretty strong start here with the Pelt Collector into a 2-drop, into a 3-drop.
Yeah, a mulligan to 6, but a nice curve there. Pelt Collector on 1. That's when you want them.
It doesn't get better later in the game.
Would you believe it doesn't? Scavenging Ooze. That's going to make this a 2-2. You can see Fabled Passage for Midas. Goes and finds the forest.
Ryan, what's going on with this Boon of the Wishgiver on the other side of the board? Is this something that's popping up more?
So there's just kind of 2 things this card does. It plays really well with Joel Rail. Just you can play Joel Rail and cycle, and then if you're not doing that, it just a draw 4 is pretty solid. It's a card that easily goes in the graveyard for Uro. It's kind of like extra copies of Opt with a payoff attached.
Sure, I can see a lot of little reasons why it would be good. It's just unusual seeing a card like that in a format where there's so many really good cards that end up just getting cut from decks, right?
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying. There's a lot of fast mana here. This is a build with 4 copies of Shark Typhoon. We usually see Shark Typhoon cycled, but when you have more stuff like Boon, then you're building towards a deck that can really close the door if you kind of find yourself at an open board and just cast the enchantment itself.
All right.
So this is actually, it looks like this build does not play any Joel Rails, so we're not gonna see that synergy per se. But 6 mana draw 4 is not totally out of the question when you have Growth Spiral, when you have Uro.
How wild is the format when we get to see main deck Mystical Dispute, main deck Negate, and main deck Either Gust in a lot of decks?
Those cards are very pushed hosers, and that is going to be a problem for decks like Mono Green Aggro. You see Bark Hide Troll joining the party for Bonde. Cycle of a Boon of the Wishgiver in response, so Midas not with really anything to do about these cards just yet. Attack for 5 coming in.
Yeah, we're going to need to see this Teamer Reclamation deck get something onto the board real quick here.
Yeah, I gotta say, the Boon of the Wishgiver not doing any favors to Midas, as we see Wilderness Reclamation coming down. A big shark and/or an explosion going to be the options here. A little tough to do both with this much mana.
Sure, well, yeah, you do one, and the next turn you get the other, and you're still in a fine spot, right?
Right. From 7, facing down, 8 powers of attackers. I want to do something about one of these creatures. It's going to be Explosion on the Pelt Collector.
Potentially.
Storm's Wrath picked up. Go back over to Bonde. Scavenging Ooze looking for some food. Gonna eat the Pelt Collector from Bonde's own graveyard. Unfortunately, that's not quite lethal there.
Yeah, what a tease, right? Just to be so close.
You saw him double check the graveyards there. Are you sure there's not 2 creatures? But that's gonna be it. Midas to 1. And so this Storm Wrath has a lot of cleanup.
He missed the line of the Serpent for 0, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Stonecoil Serpent, to just cast it for X equals 0, put it in the bin, and then Ooze would be lethal. But now this Storm's Wrath, that's a more serious problem. That's going to clean up the battlefield here.
And the other line there was just to draw land off the top, right?
That would have also been a pretty good line.
That's the one I would have gone with.
This was a mulligan to 6, and I believe that Bonde correctly did put a land on the bottom, but could have made some use of it here.
Sure.
Now there is that big shark for Midas, a 4/4. Crowl Harpooner being looked at on Bonde's side. You gotta wonder how much that harpooner does just exist to shoot down sharks.
Yeah, I would think that's one of the main reasons it's in the deck.
Mystical Dispute on Kral Harpooner. I don't think I'll get to say that one too many more times today.
And this is the problem that I talked about going into the match, where after turn 5 or 6, the Team of Reclamation deck is just going to have everything going on.
Right, and on the topic of everything, yeah, there was Uro coming down. Bonde's seen enough at that.
Yep, there's another expansion explosion there. It was literally everything.
Players going to sideboards here. It's like Bonde is kind of surveying the game, just double checking everything that he saw played there. The Team Reclamation decks, they do show a little bit of variance. This is an open decklist tournament, of course. We are playing an MTG Melee. So tournaments in this era of Magic generally are going to be open decklist. See some great henges, some questing beasts here. Garruk Unleashed showing up.
Yeah, new Garruk.
It's no Garruk Wildspeaker for my money, but it's a pretty nice aggressive card.
Now, I mean, look at that 4-drop slot for Michael Bonde at this point.
Yeah, how many 4s is that? 7, 10, 16 4-mana spells?
I mean, this seems pretty absurd, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, he's got some stuff that the lower side of the curve he doesn't really love happening. You see Kral Harpooner kind of put on the side. On the play, he does have better opportunity to leverage these 4-mana spells. He just wants a 1, a 2, a 3, and then just haymakers. That makes some sense to me.
Yeah, I can see that. You just risk not having that consistency where you always have the 1-drop on 1 and the 2-drop on 2.
Yeah, definitely. And you saw a little bit of waffling on the Great Henge. It looks like Bonde has decided, you know what? When we get to the expansion explosion Uro stage of the game, I don't think a Great Henge is going to help me. So he leaves those on the board.
Well, and having all those 4-drops in the deck would make me also not want to be even more top-heavy. Right.
Yeah, you do need that opener that has 2 or 3 lands, most likely. Hopefully a 1-drop, a 2-drop, a 3-drop. And then if you're lucky, you stop on 4 lands and just jam haymakers. In the course of a couple turns, the game is over.
Yep.
And it is kind of one of the big criticisms of the mono green deck is that you don't have card selection. It's just generally not what green cards do. You have to draw the right number of lands naturally.
Yeah, I think Ross Merriam put out a tweet earlier this week that, he was saying that maybe once upon a time in the format would actually make these aggressive decks better. I think he's completely wrong, but it was an opinion that he put out there.
I like the refusal to leave a beat on Ross on the table.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, if Once Upon a Time was in the format, I think we would just see so many more turn 1 sloths.
Sure, a little more arboreal grazer action.
And having those decks which are already good at ramping just be even more consistent would be an issue.
Bonde with a reasonable curve to start things off, had the first 2 lands, has a token and a Scavenging Ooze. Mitas has 2 mana now, leaving up a Stomp. There's the 3rd land for Bonde that represents Lovestruck Beast. That's going to be the play. 3 points come across, Mitas to 16. And this is where you see Stomp. And actually going on the 1/1 token, leaving the Ooze for now, turning off the Lovestruck Beast, theoretically.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's kind of a dangerous game that he's playing, right? Leaving the better creature on the board.
And we see a Shock and a Cast of the Bone Crusher Giant. That holds off the Ooze well enough, but Bonde is ready for more 1/1s if he wants to attack with the Beast. But he also has some big options here as land number 4 does show up. We see Vivian in the hand, we see Shifting Ceratops. But with the second Lovestruck Beast, he'll go with Heart's Desire and attacks with the first one. That's easy, that works. Mitas to 9. Ooh, and a 3/3 Stonecoil Serpent overcasting the Lovestruck Beast.
Yeah, I think I would have wanted to get the other Lovestruck Beast on the board here. Then you have 2 huge bodies, and the Stonecoil Serpent is potentially this safety net that you have, sitting in your back pocket in case your 1/1 dies again.
I think some of what it might be is because the Serpent has trample, though with this Vivian, the Lovestruck beasts could also both just gain trample. We see an Uro show up, might also go to 12, put a land on the battlefield, all just tapped lands here. We go back to Bonde, facing an opponent on 12. Here's a Vivian. So that can actually just gonna... Well, Bonde thought about a -3 to clear the Bone Crusher Giant. Could also just distribute 2 counters and give trample to multiple creatures.
I think you just kill the Giant here, put your opponent to 1, have tons of threats on the board, and go from here.
It doesn't look bad. That is the line. Mitas on 1 here. The only major payoff in the hand is Boon of the Wishgiver. That's not going to play on a battlefield like this. Might also use a Growth Spiral to try to find something. Nothing comes up, though, and Michael Bonde going to tie things up.
Quick. So quick.
Yeah, and Bonde checked the boxes, right? With the mono green aggro deck, got to land number 4, had a good spread of things up and down the mana curve, and just closed with 4 lands on the battlefield before the opponent got to have too many more than that.
Yeah, he was on the play, which was huge. The opponent actually had almost no interaction. I shouldn't say no interaction. There was the stomp out of the Bone Crusher Giant there, but very little interaction out of the opponent and just a super fast clock.
And Bonde is happy with the configuration, kind of stuck with the heavy 4 smattering there. Mitas is kind of rethinking things. We do see this a fair amount with these Reclamation decks. Some waffling on the card Uro. The front side is okay if you have it on turn 3. You don't want to get too glutted with them because they're not the most efficient effect until you are making the 6/6. Expansion Explosion being trimmed, Shark Typhoon being trimmed.
Yep. Yeah, and I wonder how big of a consideration the play draw is for these decks.
Yeah, the matchup seems largely about just properly leveraging your mana. It's a bit reductive to say something like that, but it does seem very important here.
Well, yes, when the mono green deck is just so linear, there's not a lot of room for decisions there.
Mitas looking at a very interesting hand. There's a Growth Spiral and a Scorching Dragonfire, but off of Fabled Passage until he can draw another land is kind of a choose one.
Yep, it looks like he'll be a little jammed up on his color sources.
Bonde opening up with Heart's Desire. Looks like a reasonable curve there for him. All right, Island fetched up and Breeding Pool drawn. So Mitas is going to be looking for that red source for the Dragonfire. The Barkhide Troll is going to get Essence scattered. Yeah, and because of that, finding the island instead of a mountain, you'd probably rather Dragonfire Barkhide Troll, especially because a 5/5's coming down.
Yes, I agree, but there's just so many more blue and green spells in the deck that Alex needs to be able to cast, and all the blue and green spells cantrip, so they help you find the red source.
Yeah, that is certainly true, though he has not found it yet. Found another Bone Crusher Giant off of Uro. Scavenging Ooze cast by Bonde, minus a 17, and there's a Ketria Triome. That'll clean up this mana quite nicely. Bonde is going to use the Ooze to eat that Uro. That makes plenty of sense.
Yeah, that's pretty important.
And is actually going to grow the Ooze up to a 4/4. Knows that Scorching Dragonfire is possibly looming here. Doesn't want to lose the Ooze that easily. Here's an attack for 5. Mitas is going to cycle Shark Typhoon, just a baby shark, a 1/1, and take a trade on the token there. Ooze will knock Mitas to 13.
And that's kind of an interesting decision where, he's already ramped a little bit. He has the Wilderness Reclamation, so not getting any more value out of the Shark token is kind of interesting to me. The opponent is mono green. They've missed some land drops, so they're probably going to have a lot of good things to do on 3. So it's not like you're turning off the Love Struck Beast. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes sense. Here
So
comes. Sorry, go ahead.
And I think I would have wanted to save the Shark Typhoon for a bigger impact play.
Yeah, you see Reclamation here, but the only follow-up immediately is actually just using both red removal spells to get that ooze off the table, the Bone Crusher Giant and the Dragonfire. Mitas kind of peeling to more action here. And nothing like a Castle Vantress to assist in that, as Yorvil comes down for Bonde. Well, that's an easy way to do it. Mitas is going to peel Expansion Explosion.
Yeah, that'll do.
That's a good strategy.
Just expertly navigated. Just draw your best card.
And it is also true that Team of Reclamation just does have a high volume of these Haymakers. And a lot of the cards that aren't Haymakers do at least cheaply replace themselves.
Yep. Tons of card selection.
Stomping Ground shocks in as land number 6. Reclamation gonna make 12 possible mana here. That's an explosion for 8. That's gonna go at Yorvo. And a reasonable spread of 8 cards here picked up by Mitas. Storm's Wrath, the second Growth Spiral, Ether Gust, kind of the big one, and a Scorching Dragonfire as well.
Yeah, I mean, the story here is just that he has all of his lands and now, 6 or 7 spells to work with, whatever it might be.
Bonde's going to make a 1/1 Stonecoil Serpent and mutate that. Ooh, this is actually really nice. Gemrazor shows up. There's a 5/5 Trample Pro multicolor and takes care of the Wilderness Reclamation.
And of course, there's just another one right off the top. Oh, man.
Let's see what Mitas wants to do about that. The 5/5 is good against the red spells. It is less good against Ether Gust. Blast Zone is land number 7. Here comes Replacement Reclamation. Bone Crusher Giant deployed, lands on tap. We go back to Bonde.
So I was saying that I'd probably be playing Team of Rec for this event, but you didn't really share an opinion there. Which way would you be leaning?
I really loathe the play patterns of Wilderness Reclamation. It's very much not my style. I could get behind this mono green deck, not gonna lie.
Ryan, you've never been a best deck type of person.
No, not by a long shot. Unless I accidentally construct it myself or the stars align in a way where blue-red draw extra cards is the best deck. Now, you might be thinking, well, Team of Reclamation has blue and red cards and it draws extra cards, but it does it in a very boring way.
Sure. You want to be attacking with something.
Yeah. I'm about Joel Rail, but Joel Rail and 6 drops is not my speed.
Fair enough. I feel like there's just so many good cards in Standard all the time that there is room to innovate and catch people off guard.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I do try to do that now and again, but I've been doing it with red cards, and main deck Ether Gusts have been a huge problem for me. All right, so the Gemrazor traded with the Bone Crusher Giant and a Scorching Dragonfire. We see a Stonecoil Serpent showing up for Bonde. And Mitas just going to cast Boon of the Wishgiver, a little draw 4 action. This is a little bit interesting. I suppose there's still Storm's Wrath and Stomp now.
Yeah, you can Storm's Wrath on the main phase and then Stomp after he untaps his lands.
Well, yeah, Reclamation. Nice mana boost there. That works out just cleanly. Would have been easy with Ether Gust, but also it is just easy having Ether Gust as a kicker at the end of all of this, as Shifting Ceratops is one you want to handle right away. Though Ether Gust not a permanent answer.
No, it's not, but it is interesting that, it's almost a counterspell against a card that can't be countered.
Yeah, Ether Gust, We've seen Veil of Summer banned in multiple formats, Ether Gust part of the same cycle, and I think if Veil didn't exist, we'd all be a little bit more upset about the existence of Ether Gust.
Sure. I mean, all of that, yeah. Ugh, those cards are so good. It's just absurd how good they are.
Oh, yeah. And then the cycle also has 3 more cards. Who knows what they are, though?
Gain 1 life.
Oh, yeah, you're a big Noxious Grasp fan.
It's just so funny to me. Like, you know, you make this 2-mana instant that can kill a creature or a planeswalker, so it's obviously super powerful, right? And then you're just like, no, we need to do more with this card. What else can we do here? Gain 1
We'll
life.
appreciate a little 1 life, huh?
I don't know.
All right, so double Reclamation now. You see Castle Vantress and Blast Zone as utility lands for Mitas. Plenty of mana. Shifting Ceratops shows up again. Last card for Mitas is Ether Gust, but Bonecrusher Giant's just pretty good at blocking. He's going to hold on to that one.
Yeah, the Giant is good here, and there's also the Castle Vantress and the Blast Zone. So, you know, if you're on the Team of Reclamation side of things, you've got a lot of resources to work with, even though you're almost out of cards.
The Castle Scries, 1 top, 1 bottom. Whoa, that looks like a very large explosion. What is this? This is for 8 plus. Yeah, this is just lethal.
Oh, there's double Reclamation.
Double Reclamation. This
Yeah.
is like 32 or something. I was thinking 22 is a pretty high number, but yeah, they made a triple your mana card in Theros Beyond Death, and if you've ever seen that card in play in any capacity, tripling your mana very obviously becomes very lethal in every conceivable situation.
You know, that guy's an ancient? What is that guy?
I'm trying to remember the name of the card. I know it costs green for Nyx Bloom Ancient. Thank you, Rob.
There it is.
Todd Anderson big on casting that card in Commander and winning very easily.
Yeah, I guess so.
Explosion for 30. 2 mana left up for the Gust. I was right, 32. Nailed it. And Alex Mitas, going to be a 2-1 winner